Hello and welcome to IBTimes TV. I'm Leanna Brinded, business editor for the International Business Times. Joining me now is Marco Veremis. He's the CEO of Upstream. So hi Marco, thanks for joining us.
How are you?
Well, thanks for paying us a visit after your very extensive travels, and I suppose that neatly brings us on to doing business abroad. So in the UK, a lot of companies are looking to expand their services overseas. Where have you seen the pockets in growth across the world?
As the West has slowed down, a lot of opportunities have emerged, and you can't really isolate one geography because there's plenty of opportunities in Latin America, and especially Brazil, a lot of opportunities in Africa. I'd say sub-Saharan Africa especially is really picking up. Pockets of the Middle East, despite the unrest, very interesting markets, and certainly Southeast Asia. So beyond the known countries like China, obviously, and India, I'd say that there's plenty more, and some of them more easily penetrable than the really big ones.
Sure, and I mean, in Africa, Nigeria especially, there's been a huge appetite in terms of tech and especially mobile. So how has the market developed over there over the last few years?
Well, Nigeria for us is the second largest market out of all the 40 countries that we do business in. And we've been there since 2008. We were early entrants into Nigeria. And the market is indeed going really fast. It's a country where GDP is growing, the population is acquiring smartphones quite rapidly, and they're sort of jumping over a lot of stages of development that we went through in the West, like the PC, the laptop, to then get to a smartphone, and going straight from a feature phone to a smartphone. So that automatically creates a lot of needs. I'd say, from our perspective, primarily with mobile operators, the really big ones like MTN, Airtel, and Etisalat.
Okay, but with any developing market, growing exponentially or not, there are incumbent challenges or challenges that develop over time. What are those for especially places like Nigeria?
I think, once you start doing business in these countries, you do realize that the world is certainly not flat, and that you have to treat each market very differently, and of course have local presence. For us, the key thing is understanding consumer differences, the way consumers react to the kinds of mobile marketing that we do from one country to the other. There are commonalities, but there are also major differences. And for us, it's a case of gathering the right analytics, the right data, and running the right analytics rather, and really understanding these differences. That's the main thing for us. Okay. It all begins with the consumer, always.
Absolutely, and I mean in South America we're talking about the potential there, and Brazil especially seems to be growing. So in terms of the attitudes towards mobiles and mobile marketing over there, how has that changed?
Brazil is one of the fastest growing markets. There's a huge appetite from a large proportion of the population, both in terms of belonging to social networks as well as personal computing directly on your phone. The demand is huge, and this is reflected in the speed of adoption of smartphones over there. Now, it's one of the fastest growing, I think, countries. It's our largest market and one of the fastest growing markets in the world when it comes to mobile marketing and smartphones and connectivity to the world through social networks.
Okay, well, I mean, to round off, I suppose, looking into the future, the kind of appetite for different kinds of tech. So as we've established, the adoption of smartphones has been a massive driver for these markets. Are there any other forms of ways that people consume tech and information that will further transform the marketing world, I suppose?
Well, the smartphone is king. At this point in most of these markets, and it compensates for a lot of the things that are simply not there. And I'm talking about much fewer TVs even, very few PCs and laptops. But beyond the purely technology aspect of things, they also compensate for services that are lacking from central government, like health or education. So I think the impact this kind of technology has on these countries is actually much greater than the impact it had in the West, where a lot of these things are sort of considered as given and offered by the government or private enterprise.
Great, well thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, thanks.
And that was Marco Veremis, he's the CEO of Upstream.